much.
Are we up and running? Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. And it's nice to see everybody back after a lovely summer holidays that we had and the great weather we had. I remember that weather, 4 days of it. But it's all good. It's all good. And got a big agenda today, so we'll get started right away with some really exciting delegations. So I'll start it off. Well, first of all, before I do that, because the board's looking after me. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor McKenzie. The previous minutes of the August 6, 2019 council meeting and August 6, 2019 closed session meeting are approved. All in favor? All right. Yep. Additional items. Jean? Yep, bring it up when you get there. Okay. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Elliott. The Town of Minto Council convenes into the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? And now we're on delegations, right? Yep. We have no public meetings, so delegations. We're happy to have Terry Cormack here, and Terry is getting on board, so to speak. I sent you up, all aboard to Palmerston. Terry, would you come up and great presentation we're going to be seeing.
Want Ron's t-shirt?
Yeah, Ronnie's got a t-shirt on.
There you go.
More of that special.
There you go.
Mine's in the mail. Mine's in the mail.
I got aboard and can't get off.
Can't get off. Well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you today and just kind of give you an update on our All Aboard Palmerston movement and some of the background to it and some of the things that are happening as we move that whole initiative forward, much along the same line as Harrison Rising. So we're excited. We've got lots of excitement with the group going. So All Aboard Palmerston, it just is basically it's a group of interested stakeholders. We have business owners, we have residents of the town, we have social organizations, basically anybody that is interested in becoming involved. Our doors are open. We're looking for people. We want you involved. We have committees that are going. So it's all kind of, and as you can imagine with our train history in Palmerston, what more obvious sign or theme to get involved with than All Aboard Palmerston. So lots of ideas and things that we've got on the go, always looking at trying to get train themed. We've got a couple of selfie train things, an engine and a Pullman car that we're hoping to have painted by the 28th of September for an event that we have coming up. So again, just downtown decoration, all of that sort of stuff on a train themed program. So tiny trains and treats, we've got that coming up the 28th of September. This should be a lot of fun. I mean, we're going to encourage the kids to get involved with creating their own little cabooses, as you can see by the pictures there, to be able to travel along, and we're going to have a parade uptown. We're encouraging the business owners in town to have some kind of feature at their particular business, whatever that might be, to encourage them to take this parade around town, show as many people around town what they're doing, just have a fun day of it. We think this is going to be just another kind of a cool little kickoff with the train thing. So yeah, tiny trains and treats September 28th, and they'll be decorating their trains down in Heritage Park there. And another idea that we're working on here, plans are coming forward. This was such an awesome, we have some of the most brilliant people that work for us, and I am serious when I say that, and Belinda and Taylor and Summer. Some of the ideas, this was Taylor's idea, and I thought the minute I saw that, I thought, that is such an awesome theme, railway. What better way to tie railway and a beer festival together? It was perfect.
And if you go back to Bob McEachran's history, there were 7 hotels in Palmerston back in the day because it was the only wet community around, and people came for overnighters. And
exactly. So it was a railway before we knew it.
Yes, it was.
Coming soon to a town near you. Yeah, so the Railway Festival 2021, we're planning some events. We've got an idea formulating here for bites and brews on the bridge sort of thing, whether we have some kind of we're not sure what the details are going to be, but that's the whole idea, is to put that together and come up with that kind of event. So as we move forward, Some of the goals are certainly community ownership. I mean, we've certainly in the past seen initiatives that were driven by businesses by way of, the chambers of commerce or just different business interest groups, or tried to be driven purely on a council-driven basis. They get traction for a little bit, and then they kind of falter a little bit. So with the idea of community ownership, and this is what we're seeing here, we had over 50 people out to our initial meeting at the Norgan, and I mean, we were really amazed at the involvement and the interest. And a lot of those people that were there did not just come for that evening; they have remained involved on the committees and stuff like that. So it was really a nice little kick to what got going. So we were really, really pleased about that. So all aboard Palmerston, we have a series of 5 committees. We have the steering committee, which is sort of the hub, the coordinating hub of it all. And we have promotions, and we have fundraising. We have digital, social, and then we have events and stuff like that. So we have members on all of the committees except fundraising at the present time. Not the most important thing that we have a need for right at the moment. We will get those people. We have a whole list in addition to the committees of sort of one-off volunteers, I'll call them. So we have a volunteer list that we're going to utilize by email blasting out and saying, look, we've got this event or this project or this thing on the go. Could you contribute a bit of time to that one event? You don't have to be a committee member. You don't have to be continuously involved, but we'd sure like your involvement on one event or something like that, wherever you can contribute. So to try and encourage that. So the steering committee, as I said, there's 5 of us currently on that one. I guess 6 count Belinda and 7 when you count Taylor. But so there's myself and Ron and Heather McTaggart and Mark and Connie Robinson, and so we sit on the steering committee, sort of coordinating all of the different committees and making sure that everything sort of comes together and that we're all sort of following the same general pathway as we go along, so that we don't have sort of ideas springing up and surprise, here we are sort of thing. So we need to know what's going on. Beautification committee, they are working at different projects around town, trying to coordinate theme-oriented design with maybe house numbering and store numbering, and incorporating. We have a really great working relationship with Weathered, Andy Pridham, who can just do like all kinds of awesome things. There may be other suppliers that we can become involved with on that sort of stuff as well that are local within our community. But certainly to take it and keep it in that train-themed orientation where it just ties that whole theme together on a 12-month basis in town. So, events and programming committee, name's pretty obvious. They're working on things like our Bites on the Bridge, our railway festival for the coming year, different things like that, any events, working on the upcoming Christmas shopping events and that sort of stuff. Again, trying to tie it all in together with that whole railway theme thing and encouraging people's involvement in that sort of stuff. So fundraising, as I said, we don't have anyone sitting on that committee at the moment. Again, some of the other initiatives that we're doing don't require a lot of funding and whatnot, but it's certainly getting an action plan in place and doing that. So we'll certainly get people involved in the fundraising aspect of it. We're doing a little bit of it, sort of it as it goes here, with our All Aboard Palmerston T-shirts and that sort of stuff. A portion of those sales goes back into the All Aboard Fund, so it's working along there, sort of on that aspect of it. So. Promotions committee, yeah. So again, working on things like our business promotions, I guess would be the more focused aspect of that one, with the trying to promote things like shopping events and that sort of stuff that sort of tie into not just the shopping aspect of things, but trying to tie that into other events and stuff that go along the way, so that we have like a whole community involvement as much as we can, with the businesses and some of the events that are happening, to try and create that atmosphere within Palmerston for everybody to come out for one reason or aspect or the other. So our branding here, as you can see, our All Aboard Palmerston logo here with Palmerston and the train in the center of it. Obviously, center of the train is a perfect thing to keep that central focus there. So in our color schemes and one thing and another, we had a variety of colors. I think, the key factor, I think, is that, all of this stuff needs to have a bright, happy, fun look attached to it. You know what I mean? You can do that pretty simply with colors and stuff like that. So to keep that stuff going for sure. Yeah, and to create that vibrant and unique downtown theme. I mean, you look around at some of the other communities that have followed Your Town Rising or Your Town Rising. Greg and Leslie have gone and visited. Some of the things that are happening are incredible. They don't happen overnight, but they are absolutely incredible. The way they take something and you start with a small nut of interest and you nurture that and feed it. And I mean, it's amazing how it can grow and put your community on the spotlight and on the map. Things like Aurelia and different places that have got. If you look on Your Town Rising and see some of the ways that some of these communities have come together, this is our vision really for Palmerston with all the boards. So. Instagram, yeah, hashtag anything. I don't know if anybody watches me on Instagram, or anybody else, but I'm kind of an Instagram kook, it seems, lately. But hashtag everything on Instagram or All Aboard Palmerston. It brings that all together, and our website is in the works. So Digital Main Street. Again, we're working on the test pilot project is happening here in Harrison, and I think by all reports it's going well. The sound, yeah. Oh, okay. It seems to
Is it up and running? Oh,
yeah.
Great.
So that'll be interesting to see. It's I won't take up time here to present all that information, but it's working with 88.7 The River to create a sort of our own focus. I look at it. My view of all of this is this way. The town of Minto is a community, but within that community we have three personalities. So we have, Palmerston's personality is train. Harrison's personality is based around what they've done with the cones, the cool cones and stuff like that. And we're going to help Clifford find, recognize and develop their personality. So I plan on being at the meeting in Clifford tomorrow night, and I would hope some of the others would as well, to show our support and show our encouragement. I mean, that's important. So our website, as I said, is coming soon. Glenn is busy working on that. They're technical wizards down there with their quirky little habits. And some of just sort of creating and emphasizing our sightseeing things, like with our Heritage Park down there, some of the things that have been going on. I mean, that is such a huge visitor draw asset to the area. So not just Palmerston, but it will draw people to the area. And I mean, once they're in the area, you know what? We need to encourage them when they're in Palmerston to come and visit the things that are to be seen in Harrison or Clifford, and vice versa. I mean, we're all one community, so we need to encourage that involvement and development. So, yeah, just some of the pictures and stuff. Some of the comments and stuff following the meeting that we had, and encourage, some of the thoughts that people had about the reactions and one thing and another to the meeting. And as I said, the overall theme or level of enthusiasm following that meeting was people hung around after that meeting. They asked how they could get interested. They gave us their comments and their feedback on it. And I mean, you know what? That's what it's all about. I mean, we need their involvement, and we encourage their involvement to bring this thing forward. And so we've got lots on the go. The committees are meeting. And developing the beautification committee. I know Taylor met with two committees there last week. Taylor was beautification and events and promotions. Yes. So they've got plans in the works, and we're coordinating all that. So things are happening for sure. So so there.
Hey.
I don't know if you have any questions for
Thanks,
me
Terry.
that I can
questions.
answer.
Open it up for questions, comments.
Anyway, we're excited about it.
Fantastic.
The enthusiasm has been sustained and is growing.
Yes.
So I mean, really, you can't start a better way than what feel we have started. So,
I was at a meeting today, economic development for the county, and we have all our lower tiers were there,
right.
and they were talking in one of the communities. Were talking about trying to organize a BIA and getting pushed back because people don't want to pay taxes. It's a special. I mentioned our situation, and certainly that's going to be what you said earlier. I think having the groundswell and having the people actually run this. Governments aren't great at running things, to be honest with you, other than towns, of course. Never look at it.
Agreed.
But as businesses and stuff, that's not what we should be. We should just be helping, and I think that's where I've seen this grow from. Well, we had the downtown revitalization groups, and it's growing into this, and having the people come and do the survey with us, and the enthusiasm. Terry, I'm so excited for it because Palmerston has got a great opportunity, great potential with the park and the museum and everything else to be a traveling site to people coming to us.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that. So I don't get mixed up with Instagram and Instaprint, because I said Instaprint at the last thing, and a lot of people looked at me and said, I've fallen off the wayside with social media. But anyways, Belinda's wants to say
I just want to say special thanks to Terry,
Yes.
because none of these things are possible without a champion.
Yep.
And he's really stepped up in like so many ways to like get people charged up. So special thanks to you, Terry. Much appreciated.
Looking forward to all this
A
fun
little
stuff.
wacky.
Terry, what about tomorrow night? Can you put a plug in for Clifford?
Absolutely.
Like the time and the place?
Yeah, 6:30 to 7:30 tomorrow night in Clifford. I think. Is it the community center?
It is at the community center,
Yeah.
and
I was pretty sure that's what it was, but just all of a sudden I forgot.
yeah,
But
and anybody here can make it. We certainly appreciate it. I'm
Yep.
coming back from Guelph from a
I
public
think
health
that's
meeting,
key,
but
as
I'm
I said
hoping to get
earlier.
there.
I think that the key to this is the fact that we all need to recognize we belong to one community.
Mhm.
But we all do have our personalities. And I mean, you know what? It's those personalities that we need to encourage forward as part of this community and let that shine. So, I mean, there are different reasons to come and see all of the components that are within the town of Minto. But we are the town of Minto.
And I think you appreciated too, Terry, that when you had your Palmerston one, a lot of people from Harrison were there.
Absolutely.
And they were there to
And
support
yes.
you, and I think that just goes to show how Minto is becoming Minto.
Absolutely. And
With those personalities, I totally agree with
Yeah.
that.
And we absolutely encouraged. Glenn Hall was there, and I mean, Glenn was a great contributor to the input to the meeting, and I mean, it was really, really good. I mean, yes.
I was at the meeting, and the enthusiasm was just amazing. I went there wondering what would happen, hoping we were going to have 10 people, and when you see 50 people there,
Yeah.
and then you have all these service clubs that are coming forward, and everybody has 50 ideas that they threw at Terry. Terry says, "Go, yeah, that's good, that's good."
And my recorders.
and you pass them on. This logo he's putting on sidewalks in front of businesses. If you ask, I know the Lions Club put one on, and it's in our Lions colors, and you put one in front of the Norgan there.
Yep,
It's just,
I got a list of about 6 or 8 more that
and
the weather has to help me a little bit.
Yeah.
This rain does not help.
but it's just amazing, and you're taking time out of your own business and probably dollars out of your wallet just to help to make sure. But in fact, maybe it'll come back to help the whole community and everything. I think it's fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
was very impressed, and I know our Lions Club was.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, it is the thing that will feed it is the community that feeds it. We've tried previously, with business initiated things, and they have a short lifespan. And then, but this here I feel has got the groundwork or the foundation of something that can be sustained and will grow, because it encourages the involvement of everyone whether you operate a business in the community or whether you live there and work somewhere else or live there and work within the community. It can give you a reason to be proud of your community. It can give you a reason to get involved in your community. And I think those things are key to helping any community grow and prosper and that. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks.
I told you it's going to be an exciting meeting, and it keeps growing. And we got Louise is here from the county.
You're right.
Yes, early early years division, but she's going to talk a bit about what's going on in opportunity that we have. And I just want to bring the point that Louisa and I go back, and I think it was 2 councils ago that we had the closure or pretending closure of the daycare center. And Louise has spent a lot of Saturdays working with the community and the groups that were running that, and used the old PEC building. And now we've got a brand new building, and we're really amazed, and it's being the uptake is fantastic and something we really needed. So thank you to bring another exciting project to our table.
Yes. So thank you for having me today. I just wanted to update you on some of the work that we have done since the last time I came and spoke about childcare and early on. When we had done the survey and then we had advisory groups, the survey's completed. We've had a meeting with the advisory group, and so what we're doing now is trying to act on some of the things that we have heard from the survey and the advisory group, focusing more on the centers at this point in time, because it's our goal to ensure that every municipality has a center and a license, like a licensed childcare center, as well as an early on center in every community. So I'm going to start just by rolling back. The last presentation was just to remind everyone about the guiding principles about an early on center, and that's where I'm going to focus on today. I'm not speaking about childcare during this presentation. And so it has to be child and family focused. It has to be welcoming and high quality, inclusive, integrated, and community led. And a lot of the key goals is basically providing support services to parents and caregivers in their role of caring for young children, focusing on those that are from birth to age 6. What Wellington has done to date, we actually took on this portfolio in January of 2018. So we spent the first year really starting to understand what agencies are doing, how they're providing it, what their budgets are buying them, how are they spending their money, while at the same time we were learning about what does the community want. There was no significant community consultation had done up until this point. So we wanted to do both of those things together. I brought along a few documents with me, and so this is basically, we get guidelines from the Ministry of Education, so it's been updated several times since then. Now that we're the service system managers for early on centers, we also have to develop our own child and family policies. So we've been working on this document with all the agencies that we're contracting. One of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that we didn't disconnect the trusting relationship that communities have had with the agency that was previously contracted by the province to do. So what we did is committed to the same agency providing the same services in the same location for a period of time. Other areas, they completely broke all the contracts and just got a new player in to manage the system for us. We wanted to build upon the strengths that was already in the community, as well as wanted to ensure that the trusting relationships that parents have formed with those workers was not going to be broken. And in fact, then what we're doing is massaging and building on what they've been doing and bringing in line some of the policies and guidelines that the province now makes us, ensures that we're doing. So that way we're kind of moving together slowly, but very methodically, but bringing the community voice into the services that they're providing. The other thing we've done is, so we're working with executive directors on a monthly basis. We formed a supervisors group and a frontline group. We have to get everyone doing the same thing in the same way in order for us to be able to evaluate how successful these early on programs are. And right now there's no formal evaluation of them, nor has the province done that since we've taken it on. So it's our role to do that. We're also looking at social media platforms. So we've been working with the county communications department. One of the things that we heard from families is that they want one Facebook account for all early on services for the Wellington service delivery area. So if a family is going on and they're looking at early on programs and they happen to get what, for instance, the Guelph Community Health Center is doing in Guelph, they think that those are the only early on centers that are happening in Guelph, when in fact there is another center in Guelph, but they're not hooking on to that. So what we're going to do is have all agencies not advertise. We're just going to have one platform. So when a parent goes on to that, they have every sort of information that they can find about an early on program. The other thing that we found out in our consultation process is that families are traveling. They're actually getting their children in the car. They're driving to Minto. They're driving to Rockwood. They're going to Guelph. They're actually using a variety of different areas and locations for them to do. And I'll get into that a little bit more. We've also need to establish a francophone and an Indigenous-led early on center, which is not in existence right now, but we have a separate francophone engagement process, and we've just contracted another agency to provide an Indigenous-led agency to provide the Indigenous community consultation, because it's best that an Indigenous person does that rather than us. So that's another separate consultation process that we're doing. We have to do all of this with the same existing funding envelope that the province had been given to those agencies separately. So we have to look at inefficiencies and make them more efficient, claw back any funding that we can from what they're getting right now, and creating new opportunities. So we're building a system, making it more equitable, ensuring that all families have access to it. They definitely did not before when we took on this portfolio. So we have to do more with about the same amount of money, a slight increase with the responsibilities that we have. But other than that, we're looking at the same funding envelope. And we definitely did not get an increase in 2019. So we're just holding the funding levels. So in our work, what we've done is we've identified a few things. So the core mandatory services that an early on center needs to provide has to be activities that engage the parents and the caregivers. They have to support early learning and child development, and they have to make connections for families. So those are the core mandatory functions that we're telling a center that they have to do. Other things that they can do, but that fit within this realm, is specialized services for children and families. So if a child has a challenge in their development or something like that, maybe we could get occupational, physical, or speech therapy coming into the program. We can also do some integration services for children and youth, because we know families don't stop at their oldest child being 6. They might have a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. So how do we support the whole family? Because you have to look at it from a holistic perspective in order to help their capacity in being a healthy family. They can also, with approval, provide things like food banks, clothing cupboards, newcomer groups, and employment and social services. If that is an area that is needed, we're open to that happening in the center. However, they cannot use the funding for that purpose. We've also identified as a planner now early on what an early on center is, what a mobile service is, and what a satellite site is. And throughout the county, what we learned was there's a lot of mobile services. The van would come out, they would unload, do a parent group for 2 hours, load back up, and move on. And they would do that maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks and things like that. In our research, though, what that showed is that that's not actually going to optimize the difference for the family, because you're not going to connect with somebody who just drops into your community for 2 hours and then takes off. So what we want to do is have centers in every location. So these centers are physically located. That building is the sole purpose is to house an early on center. It has to be open 30 hours a week. It has to be open 6 days a week. And the 6 days could be a half day on Monday, an evening on Tuesday, but it has to be also have a weekend in there, whether it be a Saturday or a Sunday. And how we're dictating how these centers operate within the community is based on what the families told us that they needed. So every community is going to be different. And the other thing is, as well, is that they have to operate 12 months a year. One thing that we heard loud and clear from families is that we want it to be predictable. We want to know that if we get our children in the car on a wintry day and we're going to travel half an hour to this location, we don't want to find out that it was canceled because someone that actually is paying rent for that place has rented it out, and therefore we didn't find out that it had been canceled. Haven't checked the website. Maybe we would have found out or not. Or that the staff planned a field trip that day and they weren't aware of it. They want stability. They want to be able to go there on Wednesday at 9 o'clock and know that this program is going to be there. They want to go there on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock and know that a supervisor of that center is going to be there, ready to answer any questions that they may have, even though a program is not happening at that time. So stable hours and predictable services is something that we heard loud and clear. Satellite sites are more sites that are 3 days a week in the same location, has to be the same hours again. We're offering a little bit of flexibility in that it might be 9 months of the year, and then they can move to a satellite for over the summer months. But that site might be a community center where it's not a full-on early on center, but we rent space there. So we rent space there in the mornings on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And the parents know again that it will be there on those days, and they won't get booted out because someone else is paying rent. Because right now, a lot of the places that we use are faith-based churches or rent-free spaces, so we're the first to get kicked out if somebody else comes along. And mobile sites are what's happening a lot in the county right now. Pull up, unload, provide us a program, and unload. We want to see less and less of those. Again, for the reasons we don't feel that they're actually having a great impact on the children and families. I'm going to get into now what the residents of Minto had said when we did our community consultation. So Minto represented about 6% of the total respondents of our survey, and that was open for about 10 months of the year. And when they talked about their programming preferences, they said that the respondents indicated that they would like to see before and after school programs, which it is part of childcare, not so much early on, but so we flipped that information over to the childcare part. They want a registry for all programs in the area. They want mental health services for parents, kindergarten readiness programs, child and family events outside playgroup times. That could create jobs and volunteer opportunities for those who work in the childcare field. They wanted childcare subsidy appointments, speech services, in-home programs, and a clothing and toy cupboards. And some of these services are out of scope, but it's not that we can't take that information and put it where it belongs, or try to do as much of it as we can inside the center. When we asked about interest in French-speaking and Indigenous programs separately, 30% of the respondents indicated that they were interested in these two types of programs. And 95% of Minto respondents indicated that they would prefer to participate in services in person, but there was also 25% that were interested in online videos and chat options as well, in case they can't attend in-person sessions. But for the most part, and that was right across all the areas, people like to go in person and participate. When we asked about the location, the options that we have is basically schools. There's a schools first policy with the Ministry of Education, but we can also put them in public areas like recreation arenas or anything else. And unfortunately, we do need to move all of the programs that are operating right now in churches and move them out into more public spaces. That is a ministry requirement. So we're working on those types of things. A lot of the mobile sites are happening in church basements and things like that. When it came to scheduling, again, they said predictable scheduling to accommodate working families, and that was something that was not unique, but it wasn't. But Minto really did have a lot of respondents say that consider us working families, meaning that we want to see programs in the evenings and on weekends. And I think that's specific to the community and the jobs that the families have. Participation. So while Mapleton was the highest municipality with respondents indicating that they attend early on centers regularly within our service delivery area of Guelph and Wellington, Minto was actually the second highest. So that is second highest even with Guelph included. Most of the residents that responded said that they do participate. And when we looked at the percentages of everyone, again, Mapleton was highest, Minto was second of all the municipalities that we serve, and that included the city of Guelph. The Minto respondents also indicated that they were using mostly early on mobile sites. They used the Harriston train station, the Palmerston Community Center. They were also traveling to Arthur Pentecostal Church, the Mount First Early On Center in Wellington North. They were traveling to the Moorfield Optimist, Community Mennonite Fellowship Church, and Alma Bible Church in Mapleton. And they're also traveling to Centre Wellington Sportsplex and Melville United Church in Centre Wellington. So they're getting in their cars and they're going to these programs. And my guess would be they probably go to several of them a week. They just go to wherever they can find one when it fits their schedule. Following the survey, we took all the survey's results and we had an advisory group meeting with people that were interested in advising us as to, so this is what your community said. What do you think about that? Can you help us plan next steps? I have to say that Minto, having been to all of them, was the most interactive municipality that we had. We gained so much valuable information that we could not have possibly known that the community about the community, other than the community residents coming to participate in that with us. But the main things that we were looking at that meeting were the best locations for an early on center. And the advisory group said Palmerston was probably the best place to put an early on center. And that's the one that's 30 hours a week, 6 days a week. The reasons for that is it's the largest in size and likely has more space, more families work in the community, likely to be used more and updated. The uptake will be faster. And they suggested looking into the former child care center. Said it was a great space, including outdoor play space, potential for multiple programs. The overflow can be easily accommodated through current mobile services. So this won't be the only service in Minto. We're still going to continue to look at satellites and mobile programs. But again, we want to focus on our main goal of having a center in every municipality. When we asked about the best location for satellite programs 3 days a week, the group said Harriston and Clifford. And we learned a lot about Clifford and that we probably need to look at other initiatives and create a satellite program there as well. So that is, we do have like a full report that we're going to release to council in October. And that is this report that is the whole community engagement strategy that we had done. We're just working on it to make it more reader friendly, do more graphics to it and things like that. But then part of this package and this report will be a complete separate set on the town of Minto. So everything that we learned about Minto and talk about the population and things like that. So my request today is that, as you may know, we did occupy, the old child care center that we had, the old building that the former child care center of 13 spaces. We've since vacated that building. At that time, there was an agreement that we used that space rent-free, but we did update the building quite significantly. We put tens of thousands of dollars into that building. So I'm just here to ask you if we can possibly use that building under the same scope and transform it to an early on center. The other part of this as well is that we're finding with the new site that there's not a nice space for families to meet with the staff when we're looking at resource consultants and speech therapists coming in. Right now they're using the staff room / programming room. Everything happens in that one room. So if there's a meeting with a family going on, staff are unable, they have to take their breaks in the car. And it's really not a private space for the families to be meeting with those professionals. And so seeing that the proximity is so close, we would have those meetings at the old center as well. And then looking at subsidy appointments. Right now, there's no opportunity for us to do subsidy appointments in Palmerston because there's no confidential space where the families can disclose a lot of sensitive information. And if we were able to use that center, we would actually be able to start using childcare subsidy appointments in Palmerston as well. So it's going to be early on, but we're already starting to upload the social services component to that building. So that's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for you?
It's a great presentation.
Oh, we've been talking about this for a few years, and Louise is the expert in this area, and certainly brings a lot of resources to Wellington County as to from an economic development standpoint as well as a child care standpoint. Her passion is there, and I remember talking many years ago about future, and it's come a long way. That
Yeah.
just to have the centers, then, because there was nothing in play in the rural areas. If you're in the city, you got all these services. In the rural areas, we didn't. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to bring services, and I see it growing. Do you think you have to do much renovation in there at all? Because, I mean, it was for smaller
I
kids.
went there this morning, so I think there are still some of the equipment that we had left behind that is there. So we would definitely use that, cleaning it up, and I don't think as far as renovating
No.
it or anything like. It's more it would be upkeeping it.
Just
I think there were some issues with the snow, like the heavy
Yeah.
snow on the roof, and
Mhm.
so I'm not sure. I thought we put some things up on the roof so that the snow
Wouldn't fall,
come
yeah.
down. I think we've put a new HVAC system
Yeah.
into it. We put a new kitchen into it, and all the exits and entrances. Probably a little bit of tweaking as far as the design of it. But other than that, I don't think that we would invest any money. We don't have to invest a lot of money into it, but we do have money in our budget to retrofit capital.
Yeah.
We have a very small pot of money that we can actually use just for that purpose. And that's the reason why the timing is so important to us, is that we can leverage some of that money and use it there if it's needed. It will need some money to get it back up to, because I think it's been sitting empty since we left
Yes.
it. And so we have this opportunity to completely furnish it and do anything minor inside that's capital. We have to have that money expended in a short period of time. So, and that's why I'm coming today, because we want to just expedite that and leverage every opportunity we can to bring something to Minto while we have the funds to do it.
And we have a report later, as you know, on our thing to go into that. But this is a good opportunity to ask Louisa anything about the program itself, and if you have any questions. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you.
This is just now. This is interesting. Here, I've just got to get up my thing here, and Bob, is it Bob?
Yep.
Bob is up.
Bob or Rob,
Rob, whatever.
whatever.
Good.
Yeah, as long as it's before.
Well, welcome.
For
This is
supper,
a
I'm
this
fine.
is an exciting little project too. So
We are a newly formed group
Yeah.
in the Palmerston area. We formed about a year ago. We've been flying indoors primarily in the high school, but we still love to fly outdoors because we have some aircraft that are slightly larger that don't quite make turns well in the gymnasium. So we do some outdoor flying. We presently are flying at a field up near Mount Forest, but we'd like something closer to home. Driving 20 minutes to test fly an aircraft and then turn around and drive 20 minutes back after a 10-second fatal flight, it takes a little long time. So what we thought is we'd look at property within the Palmerston area. In the past, some of the members of the group have flown in different areas of town, as well as the community center. But with Transport Canada regulations having stiffened this past year, as of, I believe it was July 1st, we are part of the MAC organization, Model Aeronautics Association of Canada. Transport Canada actually consulted us about what the regulations should be. And after a lot of consultation, this past July 1st, they came out with their mandates and their directions. We, as a club, have also been given extra guidelines ourselves as to what we can do. And we've been given exemptions to some of those regulations and rules as well because of our expertise in the field that we're in. What we are seeking is use of a piece of property down at the end of Minto Road. It is presently not a developed piece of property, but a piece of property that I know is part of the business park. It's at the very far end where the fire department, I guess, practices their burns and vehicle accessing and stuff like that. It is in between there and the woodworking shop. Field is plenty big enough for all of the aircraft that we fly. And we are just looking for permission to use that property on a recreational purpose. We're a nonprofit club. All money that comes in from membership fees goes towards lawnmower repairs and all of that other stuff. But we are seeking the use of that piece of property for entertainment purposes only. And we are wondering what we need to do to be able to do that, if there's any costs or charges or things that we can do for the community to be able to gain access to that property.
questions.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Is that property currently being farmed, or is it ear tagged for
presently,
any?
there is a farmer who's cutting the grass, the hay in the field. But what we're looking at is all the area above that grass. We're not really looking at the grassy area that the farmer takes care of there now.
Right. So what if there's a fatal flight?
Fatal flight usually means that gravity has taken over.
Sure, but then you're in the hayfield.
It won't really bother the hayfield. Most of our aircraft are small enough; it will not.
Yeah, but then you have to go and get it.
Yeah, we have to go get it.
Right.
But a majority of the time, it's just a quick trip into the field and a quick trip right back. Doesn't really affect the hay that much. The deer out there actually do more damage to the hay than.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah. I was out there a couple weeks ago and saw where all the deer were bedding down. So.
Yeah, they flatten her pretty good.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Bob, do you require a landing strip, or do you just
yes. What we would do is on the far end of the field that the farmer is not using, in between, there's a little brush area there that the farmer does not cut. We would cut a landing strip approximately 20 feet wide by about 80, 100 feet long. Then we would have a staging area, which is part of our regulations as well. We have a staging area where the guys go and set up their aircraft and stuff for takeoff. Most of our aircraft is hand launch. Some of it is on wheels and can take off from a runway. That's pretty much the only reason we have the runway, is we do have some aircraft that needs to take off of a runway, but a majority of it is hand launch. So we would cut that out of the brush area that is presently there.
So you throw them up in the air. You said they were hand launched. Some of them take off.
Some of them take off
so,
the ground. Yep.
So you just go up and fly around.
Yep.
over.
Fly around figure eight circles or whatever. Primarily, what we looked at it for was myself and my father-in-law Eric. We do a lot of experimental stuff that is being done in France and Germany and stuff that isn't really being done that much in Canada or the States. So we like to play around with that type of stuff. I have a 3D printer, so we print a lot of experimental stuff and all this other stuff. So for us to want to test fly something, it's much easier to do it in town. I could probably throw most of my aircraft into a backpack and walk down to the field. I live on Henry Lane, so it's fairly close to me.
So you're realistically, you're looking at nice, bright, sunny days. You'd be there any day of the week.
Mostly we're looking at evenings and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
I work as well as many of the other people in our group work. So evenings and weekends, so we won't be interfering very much with the businesses at all because most of them close down by 5. There might be the odd day during the week, like I get Wednesdays off of work. So I might go to the field at like 6 or 6:30 in the morning when it's dead calm and take out one of my kites and fly it. Again, usually at calmer time periods. So if the weather is raining, we don't fly. If it's too windy, we don't fly. If it's, because there's precautions in that. You can very easily lose an aircraft in a farmer's field or anyplace else. So we try to be as cautious as we possibly can.
Okay. Ron.
Would there be a noise level that would interfere with residential people on a Sunday morning or?
No,
whatever,
most of our
any morning, I guess.
Yeah, most of our aircraft, by the time they get 100 feet away from you, you can't even hear them. They're electric. We don't use nitro. We don't use gas.
Okay.
We use electric aircraft because of the noise level. I'm getting older, and I really don't want the bang and sputter of all that stuff going on.
So how far in would you go off the field? Would you be flying over top of the buildings?
We would not be flying over top of the buildings there. We'd be flying, majority of it would be held in the field. Some of our guys have gliders, so they'd be higher up and flying over buildings. But again, with my father-in-law has well over 40 years experience flying. So a lot of our guys are very good flyers. And we as a group as well watch out for each other. And by law, we need spotters. So we usually have spotters with us. And if there's anything that goes wrong, with some of our aircraft, you just turn your transmitter off and it comes back to you with all the technology that's in the market today. With other aircraft, you just turn the throttle off and let gravity do its job. And they're very light. Like most of my aircraft are kites. Like I just cut the string off, put a motor on them, and they just float around. I don't fly that high. My motto is I cook my meat like I fly my aircraft, low and slow. So my aircraft don't buzz across the field and into people's cars and all that other stuff. So we try to keep it as confined as possible.
So you would, if I could continue on, if it fell and hit a car or a house, or
We have
you got coverage for that?
We have coverage for that. We have over $7 million coverage. So we are, Mac Canada has taken as much precaution as they possibly can to do it, as well as we have a lot of regulations within Mac Canada that tells us how to function as a club, how to fly our aircraft, how to take off, safety regulations and such as well.
Yep.
So, Chris, if we had Bob talk to the Public Works or with Mike or anybody on this?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it, and we recommend that Bob come present to
Yep.
you, so council can have other questions. It's fine, council, and we'll work with figures to come up with an agreement for that area. And we know there's road construction back there this fall, so
Yep.
that's gonna
Okay, that was my next question, because I know we're going to be developing that back a little bit, Bob. So it's a case of work with the town. I think it's a great idea. It's a great little sport, and you got the insurance coverage, and what you explained to me today, I have no qualms with it. If we work out a deal with the employees, the town guys, and come up with an agreement, which I assume will come back to council, and then we'll get it approved or whatever.
Great. Well,
anybody else any concerns or questions they want to ask? Great presentation. I wondered what it was all about, and the fact they're electric was interesting, because I remember Bob Pritchett always had. Bob did a lot of flying in the day, and he showed me a lot of his planes before he passed away, and some of those little gas motors and everything that they had. Right? So it's
we've been flying electric for a while. I've only been flying really for the past couple of years, but my father-in-law has been flying. Even some of his aircraft have been published in like European magazines.
Yeah, that's neat.
So
It's neat. And
it's a neat hobby.
would you ever have an open house sometime where people come out and watch it? Or
What we like to do, we're a fairly new club, so we're trying kind of regulating that. We're looking at possibly doing a presentation at one of the fall festivals.
Perfect.
Some festival or a fair or something.
Fair, that'd be great.
I have a 3D dragon that I'd love to fly at the fair to let kids
we got
see.
Harrison Fair's right here, and they're eating this up. I can just see them over there. Warren's all excited. Yeah, it's all good. Well, thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much. It's my first time here with council, and thank you very much for everything you've done. And great applause to Belinda for all she's done for us as well. Kept in contact. Even got an email early this morning from her reminding me 3 o'clock. I'll see you there.
Okay.
So if she deserves a raise, she deserves a raise.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
And that segues right into the Harrison Fair, District Fair. 160 years old. Look at them. Can't even get up. They're so old there. Exciting stuff. Yeah. Welcome, guys.
Okay, I'm Eric Ray. I'm the president, and this is Warren. He's his title is treasurer, but he does a lot more than just treasurer. So he's our go-to guy. Anyways, we're celebrating 160th Fall Fair this year, and our theme is family ties and homemade pies. We kicked off July 5th with the crowning of our 2020 ambassador. It was Chelsea Byer, and our junior ambassador was Charlotte Moore. We bid fond farewell to Keely Harris, who was our senior ambassador, and Abby Rogers was our junior one. We had many of the past ambassadors, both senior and junior, returned. I think it's been going for 40 years, give or take a year. And
Judy's been there every year.
No. 20-ish.
20, yeah.
Anyways, it was interesting. I think they had the first one was there, and the line was long. I'm thinking at least 20 of the 40 came back, give or take a few. And anyways, in keeping with our theme, a variety of pies were served at the end of the evening. We also, at the Historical Society, they had a display coming from the first week in July, and I think it's over with now. But if you missed it, most of it will be at the Fall Fair. I think Khalees has dibsed it, so it will be at different places at the fair. The cow will be there and other things. So anyways, we had lots of people come in to see that all across Canada, from Alberta, the Maritimes, and
and all across Ontario. We're going to give them a $200 check to the Historical Society in honor for their excellent display, and that'll be on the opening ceremonies of Friday night. That's the fair kicks off at 7 o'clock on September the 13th and goes all weekend. We have all the regular events and that we got, and as far as that goes, lots of volunteers that we have to thank ahead of time, and they come out every year. You wouldn't believe how many people are actually involved in this. They come up, they show up every year. You don't have to follow them up. They come ready to do their job. We also like to thank the town staff for all their work. They just they show up at the meetings or come to the meetings, and what do you need? Tables, we've got them here for you. Fencing, it's here. They're very cooperative, and it's not what do you need? It's not what have we got. It's they do a great job for us. So we want to thank them as well. Okay.
And I believe this was brochure was put in your council package.
It didn't.
Was under the understand that.
Oh no, sorry.
And we have a brochure that highlights what's happening on the weekend. So as Eric mentioned, that the opening ceremonies are at 7. We're having a laser tag on Friday night, and balloon making chap has come up from Toronto and demonstrating different balloon creations. And then we're having Chuckles is going to be there as well. He's setting up a booth. So
Just the kid balloon.
Yep.
Lawnmower races and the silent auction happen. They've got the Pied Ford auction happening on Friday night. It's always a big event and a great money fundraiser for us. And then in the auditorium, we're having 160th reunion pizza night. So there's going to be pizza and beer, and people come in and reminisce about whatever. Saturday, the light horse show happens. Last year, the horse show ran from 9 to 6. It was the biggest horse show that we've had. I understand horses there's a lot of communities now that have reported strangles, which is something that is, so we're keeping our fingers crossed.
You're going to get me out.
Ag awareness building opens. We have the children's inflatable village going on. Then there's always the parade at 12, the dog show at 1, a pie eating contest, the baby show, and then the balloon making show. We have 2 shows that afternoon. The horse pull, the beer gardens are there, and then the Grey Wellington Theatre Guild has a musical troupe coming. And at 8 o'clock, Peter Irwin and the Memphis Rebels are doing an Elvis tribute, so we have tickets on sale for $20 in advance. Sunday, the breakfast is on from 8 to 10. Soapbox Derby starts at 9. We have the antique vehicle show. Also, church service at 10:30. And then at 12, we have Marianne Holst and the Red Rossville Band playing. The Ag Awareness building is open again. 12:30, the All Breed Beef Show and 4-H Interclub Beef Show happens. The ever popular pedal tractor pull happens, and the Big Bale rollout is going on. And then the awesome thing, Demolition Derby returns for another fantastic year. And then we also have our silent auction. So
Great. Excellent.
that's a fun weekend.
It is a fun weekend.
Yep. Jam packed.
We'll be there.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Any questions? We'll get those flyers.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
No, thank you.
I need one just. Okay, that's no problem.
Thanks.
Thanks.
We'll get some made up here. Thanks, guys. And have a. Who's in charge of the weather? Because whoever.
George. That because we've had 2 great years in a row.
I know. So the weather's a federal thing, you know that, eh? So it's there's no municipal politicians can help. Yeah, I
No
know.
problem either with Friday the 13th.
I pushed my lawnmower. Can I run behind it, or
And by the
I'll fall down after 3 feet?
You should see them go around that track. You will not.
Yeah, they're fast. There you go.
What?
I would.
I think 3 feet I'd be done.
Yeah, probably 30 mile an hour. There's some. Oh, they go.
Really?
Yeah, they got some really
Never seen
souped up.
Oh, fire up.
Like,
They've been hyped up a little bit.
We'll,
yeah, they are.
yeah. So the council hopefully, and we'll send it out, and but we'll do the little train again and we'll figure out how we're gonna get the candy out to everybody, because kind of caused the Emerson parade to be a little longer. It wasn't just our fault, but it was a little longer.
If they want us to walk the candy, they got to slow down.
They got to slow down, yeah. But anyways, we'll work on that.
And
And I mentioned it, Warren, if you want, if you can get some people to run it, we can leave the little train there, and the kids will love it. I mean, we ran it in Palmerston for the Saturday, and I think they Sunday. So, yeah, if you can get some older, it has to be an adult or somebody that's a senior, like with a driver's license, to run it, of course. But it, yeah. Yep. Yep.
It's always
Good
good.
stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good luck, you guys.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Any public questions?
Chased them all away again.
I don't know what that is. Okay. Staff reports. Correspondence first. Correspondence. Anybody want to pull anything out of the correspondence? Waters under. Oh.
Judy does.
Judy?
No, I don't actually. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the CRA, because they do this newsletter every month, and it's very colorful and vibrant, and it's packed full of information, and they just kind of keep on keeping on up there. And yeah, I just wanted to do a shout out to them, because it's just always very informative, and it's just really well done.
It is, for sure. Yep. And it's very, it's nice to have all the time, and I know Randy does a good job of getting it all together and sends out notices, and if you can send stuff in, it works good.
I'll make the motion.
Deputy Mayor Turton and Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Okay, good. Reports. Yep. Oh yeah, turn over to Judy. Where's my thing? I better read. I better get on my thing. Okay. It's over to you.
Should take 2 minutes.
Roads,
Hardly
drainage,
anything on.
cemetery, on
Hardly
cemeteries.
anything on here.
Yeah.
Special guest.
Yeah.
We'll get a special guest.
Councillor
this guy?
Elliott says it'll only take us a few minutes.
Only a couple minutes here.
This is only like.
So I'll turn it over to our roads and drainage manager, Mike McIsaac.
Thank you. And for this Minto Cemeteries Master Plan, I've got the author, Bill White from Titan Engineering, here with me to basically.
From where?
A quick overview of the master plan.
Quick one.
Thank you, Mike. It's okay with council. I don't think I was on the agenda. I'll try and be brief. First,
Can't believe you're working a Tuesday, actually. Like.
I know.
Especially this late.
Sorry, I should have went through the chair.
Oh, sorry. Me too.
Got up at noon, so make sure I could be here. Members of council, it's a pleasure to be back. Just on the cemetery master plan, wanted to point out 3 quick changes. Page 13, paragraph 1, first sentence, it starts out, a columbarium built. It should say a columbarium was built.
Right. Okay.
Page 22, paragraph 3, it talks about increased interest in cremation interment in both Clifford and Harrison. That should be both Palmerston and Harrison. And then page 23, bullet 5, it ends with funding to meet the highest. It should be funding to meet the highest need. I used to be able to get away with those little ones. You never mentioned anything, but I'm pointing them out now for you as we go through the document. And I will try and be very brief. It was a pleasure finishing off this document for council. If you read through the executive summary on page 13, if nothing else, I think it gives you a pretty good overview of what the document covers. On page 6 of the report is the operating budget from 2018 and 2019, and a little bit of discussion about that. The only thing I wanted to point out in what's pointed out in the plan is 2 things. One, obviously, council chose this year to invest more in maintenance, and from Mike's accounts, that seems to be going well. I don't know if you at the same level of complaints as
was apparent in 2018, but hopefully that investment has paid off. And the second part is that the tax support, the amount of money that comes from the tax dollar is increased from 2018 to 2019. And the document talks a little bit about trying to bring that down over time. So that's another section to have a look at. Page 13 of the report. I'm not going through a lot of sections. Obviously there's summary information on all the 3 major cemeteries. Page 13 at the bottom talks a little bit about the pioneer cemeteries. I don't know if all the council knew we had those, but there's a number of them, at least 6. And then there's a sentence at the end of page 13 that talks about information on all Minto cemeteries, including pioneer cemeteries. And if you click on that link someday, unbeknownst to myself and maybe others, the county did quite a lot of work on cemeteries back in 2014, so you can pick up quite a bit of information on the pioneer cemeteries at that location. It's very interesting.
Can I just jump in here? So, and I believe I mentioned this before, but so in rural Minto, we really have 5 that you can find, and I don't know why the Dara family plot keeps popping up in all of our discussions about rural cemeteries, because you can't find it anymore. Like many other, because we had other family plots in rural Minto as well, and so I just sort of, yeah, but it's not there. I mean, I know it's there and I know when you click on that, it'll show you where it kind of was, but it's gone. Like
There's no stones.
There's no stones there. There's
stones, it
no,
says that.
yeah, and I think there was 3 family people buried there in a backfield someplace near a fence line, and there were other spots like that too. So I feel like if we're going to continue to talk about the Dara family plot, we probably need to talk about those other half dozen places that you can't find anymore either in Minto. So, because there are definitely 5 that we can find, right? Like you can drive right to them and you can read some stones and so on, but there's really not 6.
Yeah, fair enough, and we could certainly remove reference to that one in the document when we made these other changes. One of the actions talks about further research into the pioneer cemeteries, and maybe at that point we get a lot clearer inventory and I think telling the stories, whatever they may be in those pioneer cemeteries, would be very interesting. But
it's going to be hard to trace down now,
Yeah.
or to track down now, but it's easier now than it is 10 years from now. So it's going to get harder.
There's quite a bit of information in the county
Yes,
archive.
there is, for sure.
Which was where some of these pictures came out of. And then reading the old Minto history books, which is fun. But we certainly can make that change. Page 14, we get into need, and page 14 is a section for Councillor Gunston, Councillor McKenzie. This report was first presented to the last council back in June, and so it was not a complete report at that time, and we had to add some stuff in, so council kind of asked that we do that, and so that's kind of where this came from. But the projection as to need was in the old report. I think you can find that on page 14. It talks about moving to about 100 plus interments per year in Minto. We're around in the mid 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Right now we're almost getting close to 90 already this year, so they are.
So that's not hard to believe then.
Yeah.
It's growing in business, but in any event, we looked at the time at how many plots were already available in Minto, and there's at least in the range of 4,000. So there's not as if there's a shortness of need or demand, or space to accommodate that need. So I think councils, this one and those in the future, need to keep that in mind when they look to invest in columbariums and such, as to whether when's the right time to make that. The plan makes some assumptions, but it's not etched in stone, and it will be up to council to decide how, with support from the staff, as to when we want to make those investments. Some of them are pretty significant. So there's lots of space in the cemetery, certainly for the next 25 years or more. The projection of 100 a year looks like it was pretty conservative. It could get a little bit more than that, especially if you move into some of these columbarium options. So page 15, there's another link to click on if you're interested in more information. That's the presentation, I believe, that Mike and the representative from Hilton Landmarks took around to the public meetings in October of last year on the design information. And that design information, when I talk about that, this is a major part that was not in the first draft of the cemetery master plan, and that's the layouts for cremation or columbaria facilities, however you want to call it, that were done by Hilton Landmarks for each of the 3 cemeteries. And so these have been incorporated into the master plan. You find that information on page 16 to 21. And for those who don't know, of course, there is cremation facilities in Clifford and in Harrison, but not in Palmerston. And so what this plan shows is the drawings that were communicated to the public. It puts them in there along with the phasing. We're talking about over $2 million worth of work in some 6,000 niches. So if you, I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to invest that kind of money right now because it's not needed. But it's good to have that available and something to work towards over the years. So page 16 to 21 goes into quite a bit of detail about the layouts. Page 22 of the report, I just wanted to quickly go through with you a little bit, and that's 22, 23 is the capital, a 10-year capital plan. So again, this is not etched in stone, but it's one way of spending your dollars into the future. And what the plan talks about is trying to keep this realistic relative to what the town has traditionally spent on cemeteries. I think it was pretty clear to everyone that the town's not going to invest $2 million in columbarium facilities next year or even in the next 10 years. But how can we try and expand the facilities in Minto? Because you'll see later on there's a stat that by 2030 it's predicted that some 70% of people will choose to use cremation as an option. So that was an interesting figure when it was down below 5% in the 60s and 70s. So it's growing in popularity. But back to the capital plan, page 23, you can see the town's investment in the 10 years grows from its current amount, 50,000, to 100,000 a year in 2029. That would finish off just phase 1 of the 3 columbaria facilities in each cemetery. So Palmerston's would be done in 2026. Harrison will be done in 2023, and Clifford done in 2024. So that's just phase 1. And then in the subsequent years to that, as far as columbaria facilities go, you can see a couple 100,000 invested in those facilities after that. Again, as to timing, as to which one's done first and when you invest in that, that's entirely up to this council and future councils. But it just kind of shows a model for how you might want to invest the town's money in the future. And so the expense shows growing from 50 to 100,000 per year. It's funded through the town primarily, and then also other sources. So where those other sources come from remains to be seen. The Clifford one, for example, I think was a $60,000 donation. So I think what we tried to do in that capital plan is keep it kind of modest and not commit a bunch of expenditure when there's no staff have to have time to raise the funds and find the funding and so forth. So page 24 is just a little sketch of what the phase 1 options would look like if council were to do them. So, for example, in Palmerston at the top, there's a couple of those rectangular columbariums are called near the old chapel building, and then a sign, and then a plot area laid out in the grass. So it's not a lot of work being done for that, but there's some parking and so forth that would go in. And in Clifford, for example, most of that is linking up the existing columbarium with the chapel. So you can go into a lot of detail looking at those things, but suffice it to say, the capital plan calls for phasing it, and by 2029, they're all of phase one could be complete in theory with that kind of investment. Page 25 talks a little bit about what the cemetery business is right now. I mentioned that article about 70% by 2030 choosing cremation as their form of burial. That's an American article. Whether those same numbers are true or not here remains to be seen. I'm not sure too many of us want to get shot out with shotgun shells and that kind of stuff, but apparently that's all out there.
Got to go to Texas.
I get one of those little planes to drop in.
Page 2016, go into the operational issues, and those are talked about. And then as we move down through the report, on page 28, these are some financial observations that Hilton Landmarks made. Now, I did not attach them in the appendices, so we'll have to put their full letter in the appendices, but I summarized the 10 points out of it. And one of the points they made is that they felt like there was too much tax support going into Minto cemeteries, and it would be nice to work towards more of a user pay system. So when we get on later into the operating and financial planning section, you'll see that we brought it down to about 21% in 2029. It's really up to council whether they feel that's too high or too low, but that's an observation that they were able to make when they looked through our stuff at the time. So quickly on to page 29. It's a giant spreadsheet there, and we'll go through all those numbers. It's all theoretical. It's what I would call, I guess, a model. But the first sort of section at the top is the operating budget. So you see 2018, 2019 operating budgets, and then that's just escalated through to 2029. So total operating expenses, for example, go from 2018 at 90,020 up to 142,432, and that's just increasing things kind of at a certain percentage rate. The council, I'm sure, will be able to curb costs, but it's just a way of kind of moving numbers around to give you a bit of a model. And then that capital plan is right below that, and that should essentially match up with the capital plan I went through briefly earlier on. And so total expenses, capital and operating, in 2018 was 145,020, and almost would go up to 242,432 by 2029. So in 10 years it goes up to that amount. That builds all of the phase one and has a couple $100,000 invested in roadways and grounds over the 10-year period. Builds all of phase one columbarium facilities and another 200,000 in investment in future phases. So it depends on whether that's needed or not, whether the councils will want to spend that kind of money. The next part below the total expense is the total operating revenue, and you can see some of those new revenues start creeping in 2023. So for example, donations to the columbarium in 2023 is 10,000. It moves up to 25,000 by 2029. So just trying to show new revenues and revenues increasing to try and fund that. And then last but not least, at the bottom you see tax support, 52% in 2018, 57% in 2019, and that drops to 37% by 2029. So that's the drop to Hilton Landmarks was recommended. The last line at the bottom is the size of the care and maintenance fund. That's just an estimate, and basically with the care and maintenance fund, you're only allowed to spend the interest, and so that is a theoretical number too, because if you look on the top, overhead care and maintenance in 2018, it's 11,000, goes up to 17.9. That's only 2.some% on that amount. So maybe if interest rates are higher or whatever. Anyway, that's a theoretical financial model that sees tax support drop. I guess one of the things that is critical on that point is if the town is going to move into these columbarium facilities, it will need to find the revenues to do that, and it needs to charge the right amount for that. So setting fees for these facilities, which Hilton Landmarks recommended be at least 2 times, maybe 3 times the cost, and include land value and so forth. That's very, very important. So this model gives the town 3 or 4 years to set that all up. So page 30 kind of gives some of the bullet points to the model on the financial side of things. Again, I want to emphasize, by approving this document, we are not etching in stone those kinds of expenditures. It will be entirely up to this council and future councils how aggressive you want it to be. And finally, on the implementation side, if you look at page 36, there's 25 action points that are outlined in detail before that. But in that chart, we tried to give them priorities and put a dollar estimate to each one. And so I think the one couple of things in there, updating the cemetery bylaw, that needs to happen eventually here. Number 23, Pioneer Cemetery documentation, that was the one I was referring to before. Now it's given a fairly low priority. Decreased tax support from 57 to 37%. That's number 24. That's a medium priority. And then wasn't suggesting that council have another public meeting on this plan. They did have public meetings on the design drawings. If you wish to do that, it, I believe, was sent to the funeral directors, and they have it. They've had it for most of the summer and not a lot of feedback. Guess that was all I had for now. Councillor Dirksen, as far as presentation, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Great presentation, Mr. White. We really appreciate you coming back to bring that to us. I believe there's a question, Councillor McKenzie, and then Deputy Mayor Turton.
Through you, Judy. Welcome, Bill and Mike. A couple of questions here. Going first of all, the recommendation. We pass the recommendation and accept that. It doesn't specify whether it's phase 1 or this whole thing. So I think that's important.
I'm thinking that our motion would be to accept the report, would it not? And then we use it as information to build our budgets and our planning in the future. That's how I would see it, anyways.
And it just reads to me that we're proceeding with your report, and that includes this columbarium project. Is that coming back to council?
Oh, absolutely.
Each individual project would come back to council for approval at the budget deliberations.
That's fine.
For sure,
we're going through it now, and it just read to me that's the way it read, that we're doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And my other question was there more than one monument company asked for RFPs for that?
There's 3 of them, I believe.
But none of the cemetery monument people were asked.
I think it was advertised on the town website at the time, and there were 3 or 4 that we sent bids to. But you're not committing to any particular supplier of monuments. They just did landscape drawings.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor McKenzie.
Dirksen, I'm just wondering, did our funeral directors were they asked for their comments?
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
It's surprising that we didn't hear from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they were given the designs and everything in November, if I remember correctly, and then I did forward it to them again in April, May this year too. So,
if I may, too, there is also a recommendation. I can't remember which number it is as far as the actions, and I think, action number 5 would be to meet annually with funeral directors.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Mike's staff will be able to do that or not, or whether they want to do that, but I think it would be a good idea to do that, just to keep the communication open.
I think it would be a great idea.
And then just to get they'll obviously have feedback or know which way people are industry's going at that time too.
Yeah, I would think there should be open lines of communication back and forth. Because we appreciate their opinions.
Okay, Thanks, Maybridge.
Well, and I think great report, Bill. There's a lot of detail here, and I think when we started this project, there was some concerns about the maintenance. There was concerns about other things, and we just made it into a bigger project to make sure that we knew going forward how we want to direct some of the funding, because we're hoping down the road. I like the fact that in here they talk about cutting the costs to the taxpayer down, and working towards that. But at the same time, if we do some of these other projects, we're hoping for some people to come forward with some funding. I think that was brought forward to us when we started this project, and that's the funeral director would be a big part of that if they have people that want to commit.
Yeah.
Again, Clifford would never have had the project they had without the $60,000 that was geared just to the Clifford Cemetery. So we wouldn't have gone ahead, and knowing where we're going as far as 70%, whether it's 60 or 70 going forward into a different style of burying. Certainly this gives us a product that we can look at, and when we get people coming forward, hopefully, and wanting to participate with us, that we have something to show them that we really have done the work to come up with a plan that's there, then how we can develop it. And we can show them, if they're coming with some money to invest, here's how you can invest your money. If this is one of the projects you want to take on, or if it's one in Harrison or Palmerston, it's there. So I think from a council standpoint, this is just a template for us to work with going forward, to know we have those needs. Although it's interesting that, like, right now, we don't have a lot of need, like, as far as space. We have it there, but it's just the way that we might be changing how we're doing things. So I think it's a great tool to work with, and all we're doing today is really accepting the actual tool.
Yep.
So I had a couple other things. Some of them have been commented on already, but so we have 3 Mennonite church cemeteries in Minto, but they're privately owned, right? Like, so I don't know whether, like, is there any need to include those as a mention that they exist within our town? I don't know. I just, that occurred to me while I was going through this.
If I may, just on that point, if for whatever reason there was ever maintenance to stop on those cemeteries,
they become ours. Yeah, they do become ours. Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to mention them, just so that within the next 10 years everybody remembers that.
Yeah. And then you were talking about the partnership opportunities. I think that's something that we can maybe promote a little bit more,
we have a
and
product.
make a little bit more noise about. Yeah, for sure. And then on page 83, it talks about the promotion, love of cemeteries, volunteers, and all that kind of thing. So we have that annual headstone hunt that's done in Minto, and this is the 3rd year now in 2019, and it's become quite successful. There's been, I can't remember, I was going to remember the number, but I can't remember how many people it was.
210, I think, this
I
year.
was going to say it was over 200 people that actually participated in that. Like, that's a great promotion for our cemeteries for sure. And then on the action page, number 23, and we used to do this, and I think it maybe just fell by the wayside, but we do have volunteers in rural Minto who cut the grass at the cemeteries, and I think we should get back to inviting them to our volunteer dinner.
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good point.
that's a pretty small thank you for what they do, and I don't know how that got dropped, but anyways, just it got left somehow in the dust. But I think we should go back to probably inviting them to the volunteer dinner.
for sure.
Anyway, so those were my comments when I was going through it. So, anybody else have anything they wanted to add? Okay. Yes.
Just one last point, if I may.
Sure.
I'm in any position to tell anyone how to spend their time these days as far as what's the next step, but you mentioned the marketing part of things, and I think if Mike could connect with Belinda's group and find someone who could, I think, take some of the pictures and put them into materials that would look good on the website and could be handed out to people as they come in. I think you could give them the option of choosing columbarium facilities, and or if there's someone wants to make a donation, then they could see the kinds of things that the town might be willing to accept. But that maybe in the next few months, if they could find someone to help them do that. I think that would be an interesting way of trying to move
Mhm.
the whole concept forward.
Okay, great. So do we need a motion to accept the report then? Okay, that's moved by Mayor Bridge and seconded by Councillor Gunson. Okay, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Yes, you get applause. Of course you get applause.
No applause for Bill. Especially coming on a Tuesday. I know it's a busy time.
Terry.
Okay, and so the second item on our roads or public works agenda is the connecting links agreement.
Yeah, this is our annual agreement with the MTO, IMOS, for our connecting links. And this year, the overall, it's up $327.56 for the connecting links. Putting that in perspective, salt alone went up $10 a ton. So
wow,
it's basically peanuts for right now. So is there any questions on that one?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton and seconded by Councillor Anderson. And I hope you all read the agreement at the end of the, every single page. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. That carries.
I read recommended.
Oh, sorry, I was supposed to read that blurb there, wasn't I?
You're good.
Sorry, messed up. Next one. Okay, so this is various appointments under the Drainage Act.
Yeah, so we currently have 3 appointments out there with Dietrich Engineering for municipal drains 117, which is a new drain, 52, which is a deepening and new crossings, and drain 23, which is an enclosure of a portion of an open ditch as well as some new crossings on there. The maps and locations are all attached. One that's a little bit different is the first one, drain 117. It's a small drain up on County Road 3, but with that drain, in order for it to be implemented, there's works that need to be completed downstream of that, which then encompasses a much larger watershed area, and which is Regency Drive is one of the areas that it's almost too hard to do a proper assessment schedule on that. So instead of wrapping up a lot of unnecessary dollars with engineering, it's proposed to go with a section 25, which is to use a block assessment, which is taking the same area and putting a dollar value on that, and then equally billing it out to all the residents in that subdivision. Okay, and then the other 2 are Section 76s of the Drainage Act, and that is for a new maintenance schedule for future works. Okay, is there any questions on that?
Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Chair. Do you think you'll have a problem selling it to the Regency Drive people? I understand that they don't have a choice, but
yeah.
Do they all understand the problem?
We had a meeting out there, what was that, about 5-6 years ago?
Oh no, it was longer than that.
Was it longer than that?
It was my first term, and it was right after I got here. I didn't know what drainage was.
So we did have a meeting out there with the residents, and because there was multiple complaints about mosquitoes and all that stuff. But, they decided to opt out of doing anything at that time. But knowing that there will be works completed in the future, and at that time there would be a need for an updated assessment schedule. So as long as properties haven't changed too much out there, they should all be well aware of what's coming. Yeah.
So there's is there quite a turnover out there?
Out there could be.
Yeah, I think maybe we should educate them.
Yeah, and they will be.
Good.
Yeah.
At the time, and if I do recall that through.
Yep.
I think at the time it was the drainage issue was driven by the Regency people, a couple people there. Rather than not necessarily in this case, it seems to be driven by
another.
Because the farmers weren't too happy about it either at that time. I remember the whole crew coming in, and they said I was brand new to the business, and we were out there with Dietrich's, and I think you might, because you just came on board with drainage then
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was going to turn into all these cars coming in, 100 people, and I thought they were going to lynch the people that were in, because they didn't understand. And what I think Deputy Mayor Turton is saying, there's a cost here.
Yeah.
And I don't think the problem at the time was that big that they needed to have to worry as much about it. But once they saw the cost, they decided to walk away from that.
Yeah. And now, like in saying that too, at that time, it didn't make sense because it was at the top end.
Yep.
So now that the project's at the bottom end, the whole entire watershed's encompassed in it, the cost has come down significantly for what's being proposed here in this work.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The next thing would be that I think overall, if I looked at the scope of this, the cost was going to be borne by a lot of those residents, all of it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
When that previous one, and that was a big
it was
chunk.
A big,
it was like $4,000 or $5,000 per person. Right?
Yeah, at that time.
And that was sort of nuts.
So with what's proposed here, if I remember correctly, I think each property might be assessed. I want to say it's about $100 or $120.
Yeah, and that's the difference.
At the time it was a huge dollar.
It was huge. It was like, whew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that meeting.
You were at that meeting too, weren't you?
It wasn't any fun.
Yeah. Anyways, good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to smarten up and read the recommendation this time. That the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Road and Drainage Manager's report regarding the block assessment under Section 25, Bracket 1, Bracket 2 for municipal drain number 20 and varying original assessments for maintenance under Section 76, Bracket 1 for municipal drain number 23 and 30 in accordance with the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, and appoints Dietrich Engineer Limited to include the necessary documents in their drainage report. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Elliott and Councillor Gunson. Okay, all in favor? That carries. And I'll turn the chair back to the mayor.
Okay. I resume the chair, and then we have the bylaw officer, I believe, doing this one, Cam. Yeah, you're trying to get away from it by running off to a fire, but I saw that didn't happen.
Almost went.
Yeah. It's not that bad.
So, parking again. Seems to be an ongoing thing. We've had some concerns raised about parking on Main Street by the high school, and that all comes from the high school. They've changed their smoking bylaws, so you can't smoke anywhere on the property. So now the kids that want to smoke are all parking on the main street. If you drive through the parking lot behind the high school, you'll find it's half full. There's a lot of empty spaces there. So the problem with the parking is they're cluttering up the main street. There's a hairdresser there that her customers can't park because the kids are all there. And the biggest problem is when you're coming off White's Road, you can't see oncoming traffic. So to make a left turn onto Main Street from White's Road, take your life in your own hands. So it's become an issue. Some of the residents also had been mentioned by the OPP as well. So after talking with Mike and Terry, what we came up with is if we limited parking on Main Street between, I got it in there, and you can see it on the green there between, so for the first 30 meters from White's Road, basically to the edge of the Catholic Church property line, would be no parking at all. And then you can see the green lines, those would be limited to 2-hour parking, the same as the rest of the Main Street is. Now the other thing, after looking at parking, is at Brunswick Street that leads to the parking lot for the high school. It's not a very wide street, and right now in the bylaw it states no parking between 8:30 and 4:30 Monday to Friday, but somehow we ended up with no parking signs. So we'd like to change it to say no parking at all on that street. There's no real need to park on that street anytime, and it is a narrow street, so we'd like to kind of change that too, if that's okay with you guys. Webster, sorry, what did I say?
Brunswick. Okay,
Brunswick.
that makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, Webster's designed no parking.
The other one.
Yeah.
The other one.
The other Brunswick.
In the recommendation, that was left out as well.
Yeah, I see that.
Parking on both sides of Webster Street. So.
Okay. Questions? Okay. And then Dave?
Well, I was just going to say, I think this is a great idea. I think it's unfortunate we didn't maybe do it, at our August meeting instead of first day of school. But
Well,
'cause
I
now
think
we
it
gotta-
was we got a few calls and a few
Sure.
to bring it
Well,
up.
they were
We
starting
can-
to think about school coming back,
Yeah.
right? But no, I think this is a great idea, and it's not that there is no parking, right? Like
There's plenty.
as you said, there's plenty of parking back at the school parking lot, the
Mhm.
student parking lot. So
You can go through on any school day, and that parking lot is half full at that.
yeah. So good.
Thank you, Mayor Rich. So, the issue is smoking.
No, the issue is parking.
Okay. But the people are parking on Main Street because they don't want to park in the parking lot because they can't smoke in their car in the parking lot. Is that true?
You can't smoke anywhere on school property.
Right.
So when the kids are assigned a parking space, if you go back there, you'll see every space is numbered. So they know exactly who's in that spot. And the kids, that's one of their concerns. They don't want them knowing that they're there. If you drive around the school and you'll see a large group of kids standing on the sidewalk. I guarantee you half of them, at least half, are smoking. Because they can't smoke on school property.
I'm confused then. The number, they don't want them to know that they're smoking in their, like, are they using their cars
They
as a
don't-
smoking spot or?
Or by the car, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they don't want them to know, so they can't
That's-
smoke on the
that's
parking
only
lot.
part of it. You can't smoke in the parking lot.
Right.
You don't want the school to know, yes, that's where they are. Like, it's just, it's kind of, it's silly, really.
And I think one of the other things is that where we're having the red, that's like if you're late coming into school, you're parking there because you can whip in really quickly. Bang. You know,
It's shorter distance.
shorter
to walk.
distance, and that's a bit of the issue too. It has been in the past. And then they're there all day.
Right, so then my issue is enforcing it, because that's gonna be a problem.
So we had a problem with them parking like across, right beside the school on the other side of that red line.
Mhm.
That was actually designated as
For the church.
fire.
Oh.
I should get that one.
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
So there's a kid was parking there too.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get the signs back up after we changed the light pole. So it took, I think, Terry, would you write 2 tickets and I got 1? There's my car there.
Okay. So
20
we're gonna
bucks is
spend
a
a
lot of
couple
money.
weeks ticketing them
No,
to get the message
Couple
across.
days.
I think it was 1 day.
We'll talk to the school and let them educate the kids and the money first, and then we'll talk to the school.
And then David will deal with them when their parents show up to get their car license renewed, and they can't because there's outstanding tickets that they never told their
Never
parents
told them
about.
about- well, that's the way it is. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Then I got a recommendation here that the council receives the bylaw of enforcement officer September 3rd, 2019 report regarding the amending parking bylaw and consider the bylaw in open session. Implement no parking on the north side of Main Street East for 30 meters from White's Road, and then 2-hour parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. from there to Brunswick Street, and 2-hour parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on the south side of Main Street from Queen Street North to Cumberland Street. And you want me to add this other one on Webster?
Yep.
And Webster Street is designated no parking at all. Right? Webster's no parking at
Yeah.
all. Webster, no parking at all. Okay, that little amendment there. Concerns? Somebody move that? Councilor Gunson? Councilor Dirksen? And all in favor? I was just going to say Judy, and I said, oh, I thought Johnson, Dirksen. I better do both. See. Okay. Passed. Away you go. Have fun. Write some tickets. Economic business. Economic here she.
And thanks to Gord for writing this report while I was on vacation.
Yes.
He did a good job. So yeah, with all the stuff going on with our Your Town Rising stuff, the red announcement of the new funding was very timely. So we are really excited to be hopefully putting in an application on Friday of this week to apply for red funding under the strategic infrastructure stream. We were hoping to get in under the 50% funding, but unfortunately many of our projects are capital related, so they suggested we go under that. fund. So that's what we're doing. We were looking at doing public Wi-Fi in all 3 of the downtowns, but that's looking a little cost prohibitive despite the funding. We're looking at doing banners, information kiosks, wayfinding signage, in particular parking signage. It's not always easy to find where the public parking lots are in the community if you're not from here. Public art, we have some cool ideas around that. A bunch of murals that tie into an event, street furniture, seasonal lights specifically in the Palmerston Lions Park, and a lot of those like small streetscaping things that will make a big impact. We're looking at doing this over 2 years, so it'll be 2020 and 2021 application. The chamber has agreed to be our co-applicant, and they are throwing in $6,000. So one of the things with RED funding is partnerships. We know this from previous experience, and we are very fortunate to have many community groups coming to the table and bringing funds to the table. For example, the Palmerston Lions have already committed $5,000 each year over the 2 years. I know the Kinsmen were looking at something similar, and possibly the Legion in Palmerston. Many businesses are throwing money into the loop. I know the Great Wellington Theatre Guild, the Arts Council, the historical societies like Port Society, like you name it. We have amazing community support for this project, so we feel pretty confident in our application. We've met with the regional staff, and it sounds like we are on the right track with our application and the investments that we've made over the last 10 years. And our reputation with OMAFRA is going to hopefully bode well for us. So I think we're sitting down Thursday. We were waiting for some final quotes to come in to finalize this application. So we're going to sit down Wednesday, tomorrow, and finalize our numbers and see where we're at for things. But we're looking pretty good in terms of partner contributions for this. So I don't think we'll be too far off on our contribution. But that's where.
Questions?
Good luck.
Linda, when did they announce?
When did they announce it? Yeah. They say it typically takes about 3 months. So hopefully by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then we're projecting like not much to happen in the first like January to March.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our spending I think will take place April to June.
So in time for a capital budget, we should know.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so the end of the year.
Okay. Great project. Yep. So the recommendation is that Council of Town of Minto accepts the Treasurer's and Deputy CAO and Business and Economic Managers report and supports the Town of Minto application under the Rural Economic Development Program. Moved by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Turton. All in favor? Thank you. Next up.
Next up is me again. So just wanted to bring this forward to council to get your support, I guess. As you know, the Town of Minto, myself, and Mayor Bridge have been active members of EDCO for some time, and the Town of Minto frequently presents and receives awards, etc., etc. I've been an active member for a long time on the Conference Planning Committee and on the Membership Committee, and several times have been approached to run for the board, and I've held off on doing that until I felt I was ready to take that on, and I feel the time is now right. I have 4 awesome people that have put my name forward. You'll know Dale Small from Wellington North and April Marshall from the town of Hanover. And then some of the more influential people in the organization, Lauren Millier from MDB and Jennifer Patterson from the city of Hamilton. Both are women that have been past presidents of EDCO, and I've developed relationships with over the last few years with my involvement on EDCO. Before I decided to do this, I checked into all the requirements. I've talked to different board members about the time commitment, the costs, and all that stuff. So I've included that information there for you. Heather suggests it's about 8 to 10 months effort because it is a working committee. I already sit on the Conference Planning Committee, so I'm already volunteering some hours for that. So I think that's where most of the time probably lies, outside of some additional travel time to go to Toronto for their meetings. But one of the biggest benefits, I think, for the municipality is the opportunity to liaison with some of the key government ministries that affect our sector. And those are listed there. So the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Growth, Ag, Food and Rural Affairs, Tourism, Culture and Sport, and then not so much, because it doesn't affect us down here, but the Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines. So, and speaking to other people, they thought that $1,000 would be more than sufficient, because EDCO does cover 50% of your expenses. And for those that know me, I am always sharing rooms at conferences anyway to help the cost down. So I'm willing to do that as well. And so I'm just looking for council's support and putting my name forward for the EDCO board for the next 2 years.
I'll move it.
Okay, yep. And I just to add to what Belinda said, when you're down there, Belinda's well respected in the industry, and I think I've always encouraged her to maybe do this, take this step, but she wanted to wait till she would know family is in the right situation where everything is. So I'm really proud of you to be putting your name forward, and certainly I feel confident that we'll back it.
Thank you, Belinda. Good luck now.
Thank you.
How many other people run for this position?
As of right now,
is
there's
it a
5
nominee?
other people that have put their names forward.
For
as
how
of
many?
Right now.
For how many jobs?
Ooh, how many spots? I'm not sure how many are open right now. There's usually like 4 or 5 positions open, but that like coming and going of other people and that.
Regional.
So I'm not sure how many are open right now. And the deadline is September 15th. And then I think people they start in October, and then you don't find out till December or something like that if you're elected, and then everyone finds out the AGM in February at the conference. So
Good luck. Yeah, I'll second it.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
thank you.
Thanks.
Good. Good, Linda.
All right, I'm moving it over to, I think it's up to you then. Or I have one more.
One more.
Oh, I have one more. I'm sorry. I do.
Clerk's assistant.
Clerk's assistants. Christmas, my gosh, it's Christmas time. Are you doing this one?
Less than 4.
Oh, Chris is gonna take this one on?
Yeah, it's just our normal usual report for the schedule for council meeting dates for 2020 and the Christmas office hours. The only changes this year, we brought it, Anleen and Quinn worked on it, and Quinn wrote up that it's for 2019 and for 2020 for Christmas, so that we don't have to come back to you again at the end of next year, that this is all taken care of for 2 years. And as you saw in the schedule, that it included your meeting dates for 2020. So just checking to see if there is any issues or everybody is okay with that schedule.
Yeah, and go ahead, Jay.
So as far as the Christmas break, that's cool. I always find January though is so hard if somebody wants to go away for a week, because we have 3 weeks in a row with stuff going on.
Yeah.
With that budget meeting in there,
And then Rome.
and then Roma on top of it. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
Roma is on the 18th to the 21st.
Seems to me last year, because of stormy weather, we ended up doubling up our budget meeting and a council meeting or something. I don't know. I just.
Is that preferable that we move the budget meeting to
Well, if you have a.
the 21st and do the budget meeting in the afternoon and council afterwards?
I
That's
don't
a
know.
long day for council.
I mean, it just
though.
about kills you, but at the same time, yeah, like it's just there's no space there to go away for a week. That's the challenge for me.
Just on that, I mean, I know Deputy Mayor Faulkner went away for like quite a bit around that time, but
5
is
weeks.
anybody else going I haven't got my January figured out yet, but
Well, we would like to go away sometime in
Yeah.
January, but now I look at this and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
when can I go?
I don't think with the capital budget, I don't think it's that onerous for us to do the capital budget. Certainly before the meeting, I don't think it should be a troublesome.
That's up to council to.
Well, we did it last year, I think, did we not?
Well, just we did it because of a storm, I think.
Yeah, with a storm, but that might work better.
Council in.
And if we can if we plan it ahead, then we can kind of plan that agenda maybe to be a little bit lighter, right?
Yep.
Whereas when it's a surprise, then it's like, well, we had it set. So.
That's right, and that's what I think. That's why it was long, because we already had the 21st with a lot on.
I'd love to do that, but will you guys be back from Roma in time? See, it's
Oh.
the
Oh yeah,
21st.
Roma's the 20. Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Good point.
Oh, well, can we? Oh, that's right.
Roma's in Toronto, right?
Yeah. What is there anything on? Is there's
We'll do it on
Tuesday
the
morning?
Their option is do it at 1 o'clock on the Tuesday before the council meeting. That gives you only 2 hours, and then we can schedule from there. you get 2 more cracks at it in February and March.
Yeah.
Me, the last Tuesdays I have to take off.
Would you be, Gord? You won't be ready on
Tuesday.
Oh, I wouldn't move it up.
what if and I just throw that in. We're looking at February short, right? So you can't go to the next week. Unless you have your budget, would be too late to have your budget meeting on the first one in March, like that, like have it during the morning or whatever.
That's too.
I just,
Why not do it on?
my thinking is, we have council, we have meetings, we all go away. We all choose different times to go away. And if we start moving things, what about if I'm going away in March? Are you going to move a council meeting?
Well, we move everything for you, Ron.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I get it.
But
I
usually
just,
there's 2 weeks. Usually there's 2 weeks though between
Yes.
our real strong.
And that's how you try to.
obligations.
As Judy's saying, in 2 weeks you try to
So
plan
you try
to
to kind of fit it in there, and like it's just like
I get it, but for me to have a budget meeting at the same time as our council meeting, you lose focus.
it was pretty
It's hard.
You just, after you sit here, even today, after you sit here for 3-4 hours, all of a sudden the end of the agenda doesn't really matter. You want to get it done and so you get out of here. And that's, I'm being honest.
I know exactly.
And maybe not so much today, but when you have a long agenda and you can't choose a short agenda, Chris, whatever comes forward, you got to bring forward, right?
Yep.
So you can't choose. It might be the biggest council meeting we ever had. So we got to deal with business that comes forward. So I'm suggesting let's deal with this. And
well, I've got another suggestion, maybe, Ron.
Okay.
I just throw it out here, but the budget meeting is a separate meeting. Does it have to be on a Tuesday? It doesn't have to be. Why don't we make the budget meeting on the 8th? Right? Make it Wednesday the 8th, or do you?
That's pretty early for you in the year.
Oh, the 28th. Sorry, Gord's thinking the 28th. Okay, well that's fine, Gord. So we can make it a different day.
Yep, that's fine.
Is that all right?
I get that.
If we're gonna, what we'll do is we'll take that one off and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
On a date for that. We got months ahead of the time, so we'll get back to you on a date with that. But what we'll do is try and include it the same week as a council meeting. So the council meeting on a Tuesday, and maybe we'll just do it on the Monday of that same week. And then that way, that still gives you the week in between, the week afterwards, if people want to do vacation.
But maybe do take the budget meeting right out of the Tuesday schedule, because that makes it.
Absolutely.
That work out?
Yep.
We know way ahead of time.
The only problem will be with me with my schedule now to get 2 days off if I have to book 2 days
Oh,
off.
yeah. Well,
It's easier because I'm booked every Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying, Gene. We can't satisfy everybody.
Right, we won't be able to satisfy everybody.
So if you want to pass it today, we'll take that budget meeting out of there and we'll come up with another capital budget meeting.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, did you want to speak?
So I know in the summer we only do one council meeting a month. Is it like, what about February 4th if we just do that, the budget, and don't have a council meeting? Is that possible? I don't know.
Very hard to do.
There's too much on the go.
Business.
Yeah,
You
because
double up. You'd be doing a 6-hour council meeting.
usually, and the reason the summers are usually a little slower is we don't have it. It all depends on planning issues and other things that we run into. So, but
yeah,
people are away. We don't get a lot of delegations in the summer and stuff like that. But
right.
Let's just do that, and
we'll take the budget meeting off that. But if you want to, as amended, you can accept the schedule as amended with that budget meeting out, and we'll come up with a different date for that budget.
And I assume I didn't check all these, Annalene, but there's no other conflicts as far as other like.
Not that we could find now. We
Okay.
couldn't find a couple conferences
Well, I may have a conflict in here somewhere.
First
but I
part of
don't
May,
know. So,
end of April.
Again,
It's the first and third Tuesdays. That's what we ended up going with. That's our usual. Third.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right?
anyway, so we'll figure out the budget meetings and make sure that we can maybe do those. Idea, figure them out. Okay. All right. Thanks.
No problem.
And all the recommendations there. Well, what is the recommendation? Yeah, moving a second. Okay.
I move.
Councilor Elliott, Councilor Johnson, all in favor? Okay, good. I'm turning it over to you now.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Got 2 or 3 items here to talk about. The first one being the tax collector minutes of settlement, and council report. Gord, which one do you want to do first?
I'll do the minutes of settlement.
All right.
That's the first one.
And I am very interested. I haven't lost focus.
Good.
Yeah.
It's early yet. It's like, it'd be more 6 o'clock. I'd be starting to worry about you, but you're fine.
We'll be out of here before we get in there. Yeah, so Janet's been extremely busy these last few weeks.
Keep her
getting
busy to
ready
the end.
Yeah, keep her busy right to the end.
Well, she likes to get these minutes, and then there's a lot of severances done before our final tax billing. So, minutes are settlement again. They go through the assessment review board, and there's usually a change in use, and we have another little wrinkle this time. So we have our normal things where maybe a property was used for a commercial purpose, it's gone to residential, or sometimes you'll have a farmhouse, and for some reason it's not valued as a farmhouse, and MPAC comes and says, no, it's really a farmhouse, it's still residential, but they change their methodology. You have gravel pits that go on and off, so we have that. We also have, you may remember when we did our tax rating, we have several new classes there. Commercial or industrial small scale on a farm, so it's under 50,000 of assessment. And we have a few of them this year, and that regulation actually came into effect, applicable as January 1st, 2018. So we have a few, so we've adjusted for 2018, and then it carries through to 2019. So there are quite a few of them this time, and you also have the ones that flip from they call it tax incentive, which could be your farm class, but it's also your managed forests and your conservation lands too. So back and forth. So the dollars are fairly significant on this one. 32,000 is our share out of a total of 82,000. So.
Questions for our treasurer? This is one of the biggest ones we've seen, Gord?
Yes, I would say so.
All right, so seeing no questions, then
I move.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Elliott. Sorry. Recommendations that the council receives the September 2019 report from the treasurer and the tax collector regarding assessment adjustments, and that these adjustments be approved. All in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So the second item then is section 357 of the tax collector's applications. Gord?
So these are similar, though there's more internal involvement, and they're for more of a change in the building, like you take down the barn, or we move from one tax class to another. So we've got a couple of things here where we had a industrial property that was really town owned that's finally come through into exempt for quite a while and didn't get backdated. Again, we've got a lot of shed and barns coming down. Got a house fire. Also, it always amazes me how some of our town properties that are wastewater treatment plants, or that they have changes in use too. That's just a change in impact methodology. So the overall for this one is 36,000, and our share is about 12,600. So.
Questions? So that one big one there, Gord, the municipally owned property, I know you talked about that.
So that is the one, our Municipal Services Corporation, that's adjacent to our certified site. Oh, but the rules of the certified site required a specific separate roll number, and yeah, it's caused us a lot of upset, but anyway, we finally have it corrected.
Brief. Can I have a mover then? Councillor Anderson? Councillor Dirksen? Recommendation is that the council receives the September 2019 report from the treasurer and the tax collector regarding section 357 applications, and that these applications be approved. All in favor? Against? That's passed. So the third item then is to do with the National Disaster Mitigation Program, 2019 transfer payment. Gord?
So this is kind of an interesting one. We were amazed at the speed the connecting link came through, and I'm amazed on the other side at the speed of this one. This is our modeling of our flood mitigation alternatives. This one has a hard cap of the last eligible expenditure being March 31st, 2020, which is basically 6 months from now. And as you know, we've approved our share in the budget. We're hard at work on this one. We had another meeting last Friday on that. And this is just the official transfer payment agreement with the federal government too. So this is the one that's roughly 130,000 for us and 130,000 of
Questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mayor Bridge, Councillor Elliott. Recommendation that the council receives the report from the treasurer dated August 12, 2019 regarding the Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement for the National Disaster Mitigation Program and considers a bylaw in open session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So let's talk about the accounts. I think we've got a couple of accounts here, Gord.
That's right, because we just had the one meeting in August, but we had 2 check runs. So the first one, let's see, talking about the flood line, we've had another about $5,500 of expenditures for that. We've been working on servicing the William Street property in Clifford, and so far that's the engineering for $11,000. The George Street North, improving the water servicing in that area, about $105,000 there. Again, servicing the wastewater portion, and I noted that the Swint development is one unit already sold and going well. So $90,000 for the wastewater portion. Also on the Laura Street South, again, servicing $66,000 recoverable. Alcar continues to be very busy, especially at the arenas and facilities on working on capital projects. So another $12,000 on the Hairston Sound project. In Palmerston, $25,000 for the water lines, $28,000 for a dehumidifier, and $18,000 for electrical work. Majority is capital there. On the next run, we've got, let's see, the facade grants and that for about $6,700. The largest by far, $206,000, was for paving of Ann Street. So we're moving ahead on that one. There's more to do. Again, a lot of recreational facilities work. Some overhead doors at the Lions Clubhouse for $3,700. Palmerston Arena change room for $5,000. Redoing the alarms at the Hairston Arena for $8,000. Town Hall, the Theatre Guild had done some cosmetic work, and then we reframed the buildings for about $9,000, and a bit more on water heaters and air ducts for $18,000. Projects.
Questions? The George North,
Yes.
have we talked to the folks down there at all? It could be a public works question, but is everybody happy?
Let's see, I haven't heard too many complaints.
Okay, well
that's a good sign.
Silence is golden.
Can we have that's a good thing. Can we have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Johnson. Councillor Mackenzie. Recommendation is the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's report dated August 26, 2019 regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for July and August 2019. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. We have one more item. We have the results here from the Pick Your Priority survey. And Gord?
Sure. So again, this is kind of an interesting one. I think it's a good way. When we bought the Bang the Table community engagement software, we put a third from the finance department, and that was to start to engage our citizens with what they would like for level of service that we provide primarily from our asset management group. And Emily Harris, before she left, worked on this, and Taylor was a great help in doing the technical part. And so it's kind of our baby steps into that. We have more consultation required in the next about 4 years through that asset management regulation. We were very pleased. It was second only to the Canada Store survey in terms of response, and we had a pretty good split between demographics and geographic location too. It very reasonable, and it kind of a funny coincidence that one of the priorities was the green bins, and I think the county announced it the month after we did the
I
survey.
noticed that a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on it.
We're right on. Look at that. Eh? We got the county to turn around and
Oh
do
my
that.
goodness, yeah, leaf drop-offs and the red funding that we're working on again. You got the public art and the bike racks and a lot of that right on. Sidewalk upgrades. I think if anyone's driven around Minto this summer, I've never seen as much sidewalk going on. Pothole filling. Well, one of the worst streets is Queen Street in Harrison, and it's being paved kind of as we speak here. So anyway, I was really pleased both with the quantity and the quality of the responses, and a lot of it I think the council and staff can respond to. And anyway, just something to keep in mind for all of us when we get into these budgets. And see, this is what people are thinking about.
Questions?
I just think it's a great tool, and I think we got to keep working it and as we go forward.
Councillor Dirksen.
I would agree. It's a great tool. I guess we don't. It's not a lot of responses though.
No, I know.
It's not a lot of people. Like, I mean, any one of us could walk down Main Street of any of our towns or Tividale and get almost as many responses.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, anybody's idea of how to save money or you know, that kind of thing, I think those are all valid. I just don't think we should use it for a lot of trends, I guess, and that kind of thing. I don't think we should put that much stock in it, but for sure, it's interesting information that we can use.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
And people need to get used to
Sure
doing
do.
it this way, right?
Absolutely. So, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Treasurer Duff. I know. Mayor Bridge, Councillor Elliott. I know he could do it, but he can't this time. What are we looking for here? The recommendation that the council receives the treasurer's pick your priorities survey results for information and consider the information provided by residents as an input into the 2020 capital budget setting. Treasurer Duff, what do we do with this report?
Basically, you're accepting it for information, and we'll keep it on hand. And as I say, we have to do more formal engagement, so we can do more community surveys. Always do the tried and true public meeting and that. But I think it was also a good exercise for Taylor and that too. Is we asked her to do a lot of things that she had never done before, and she can use this for other
Perfect.
surveys. And
All in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much, and I'll pass the chair back to our mayor.
Okay, thank you, Burton. And I'll turn it over Deputy Clerk. There she is.
I have just a very quick report for you today on the appointment bylaw. We're just doing some updates on it. As you know, with the Palmerston Board and the Harrison Rising, there's some changes there with a few other committees as well. All of council's appointments still stand though. So I'm just looking for you to accept my report and that you will consider updating the appointment bylaw in open session.
Any questions for Annalee? The recommendation is the council receives the August 28, 2019 report from the deputy clerk regarding updating the appointment bylaw and considering a bylaw in regular session. I would need mover and seconder. Judy and Ron. All in favor? I hadn't got Ron in yet. So.
He has to put his hand up.
I did.
No, he doesn't.
No,
All in
he-
favor?
No,
All
apparently
in
he
favor.
doesn't. You're right.
Oh, okay. All right. No. Okay.
I'm not in this. I don't know.
I'm not.
This is this. Oh, I gotta go like this.
Up.
How do you
You'll do
that?
what you want.
Right.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
I always
I
save
gotta
my
get-
reports to the end because everyone's phased out.
Oh, there we go.
So,
I couldn't even get it up. Now there we go. We got it. Okay. Go.
this is just a follow up from Louise's earlier delegation that we wanted to have the formal agreement passed and by council. So as Louise's presentation said, this is an exciting thing that we want to bring to Minto, and it's services that we've heard. And it's not only that, it's through Minto Mental Health that they've heard feedback and that there's services that we need for mothers and families. So this is all bringing it in to our community for, a low cost to us, which is just lending them the building and not approving, not accepting rent for, which is what the agreement was we had with the childcare, same idea. So it's partnering, in my opinion, and staff's opinion, is partnering with the county to bring these much needed services to our town, which you saw in her survey and that we need. So it's just approving that agreement and getting on that they can move in and start providing those services to Minto.
Questions? No, it's great.
I'll move it.
Curtin?
I can second it. but-
Oh, he's got his hand up now. Elliot, all in favor? Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, it's going to be great to have that there. Other business as is closed. Now, Jean, I think you had something you wanted.
Just a reminder that the Terry Fox Run is coming up on September the 16th, I believe it is,
16th.
Sunday.
Yep.
I'll be sending out things looking for donations. I'll be walking. David will be walking. Support the cancer research. See if we can get rid of that stupid disease.
Yes.
Yes, I know. Hey, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the Town of Minto staff put up the banners in Hairston. I'm not sure exactly when they did it, but they really look beautiful. And on behalf of the Legion, thanks for doing that.
Mark?
That's a county garbage question to you. Just wondering why, and some of the neighbors are, that the subdivision gets weekly pickup. We get bi-weekly. Another question is, when we put our garbage out, guy doesn't come, it's religious at Drew till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
In there.
How you can manage to do it
So
always at 2 there.
You're leaving for work in the morning, and I'll tell you what happens. This guy's religious that comes for the recycling.
Right.
He is bang on between 7 and 8 every day.
Yeah, they're busy. Yeah.
So when he goes by, nobody's got their other garbage setting out. He calls them and they don't bother coming up the road. That's not right. So if my neighbor is going to work in the morning, and he knows their garbage isn't picked up till noon or 2 or later, puts it out in the morning before he goes to work. But the recycling man will say, "Oh, there's no garbage out for you. Don't come up the road." This is his call at 7 in the morning. He shouldn't get that call.
No. Okay. And what I'd like to do is they have a hotline, waste management, and you call down there and they record it similar to we do. So it's a county issue. I mean, we can bring it up here, but I mean, it's just as quick to call the county. And if those things are happening, they'll fix it.
Yeah,
Because and if they don't, then let me know. But from a county standpoint, but they've been pretty good. I know. I think David gets calls on this. Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. Yeah.
But the rule is get your garbage and your recycling out by 7 a.m.
Yeah. That's sort of the thing.
That's what they're going to get told.
But if that's happening, Mark, that's not right. And I would just have them, the neighbors or yourself, whoever it's happened to, call in and say, like, you have to have it out by 7, though. You're right. Judy's right. You have to have it out by 7.
Most can't, because the dogs or animals have got a reputation.
But you can use containers. Because that was one of the things before, you couldn't use containers, and that was one of the big issue I had. Because if you're in the rural areas, that's why we weren't getting the pickup. But you can use containers, and they don't have to be approved by them. They have to be like just normal ones you get at the hardware store. We put ours out in that. I put it out at the night before, actually, because it's hard for me to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. And our guys come at 7 every morning. They come at 7 at the subdivision, but you can put it in those containers, and we haven't had any issues. So I think people forget that, but they changed the rules. Gene's looking at me like, but they changed the rules.
You don't want me starting.
No, but I mean, they changed the rules on containers because when they went to rural garbage pickup, I said, you're going to have to allow containers. And that's, so if that's the case, make sure you have a container and you should be all right.
I was more concerned about housing in my garage for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, and they can and make sure they know that they can have containers.
Sure.
And that should hopefully help. Because, yeah, if you put a bag out, you're right. I mean, you're going to have it ripped apart. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Something quick. At AMO, I don't know whether you heard Premier Ford said that there was recreation money available, but I think it was by September 1st. So
it was a 2-week window.
Yeah. So how was anybody to even think about putting together?
We can talk to that. I think we just talked about that today. Did you want?
I'll just say, I'm not sure if this was what he was referring to, but there's a federal one, the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, which is similar. We have an application pending for the Brunswick Street Bridge, which was roads only. This is a recreation one, and it went live, or it's going live actually today, September 3rd, and it's got a November deadline.
And I think
staff is reviewing.
I'm pretty positive that's the one he's talking about.
Okay.
Because it's
So
a co-op with the federal government.
Program.
Yeah.
That he tried to. Okay.
So
Chris and I talked at Ottawa, and we said, how are we ever going to get anything?
No.
Never even think about doing anything by September 1st.
No.
So.
No, I understood it was going to be announced.
Yeah, it starts September 1st. That's when the window opens, September 1st.
But that is provincial, isn't it?
It gets reviewed at the provincial level, and
Right.
if you make it past that, it's actually federal dollars.
Mm-hmm. So it's similar to what Gordon said about the Brunswick Street Bridge one.
Mm-hmm.
Gene, it's reviewed by the province, which I hate.
Yeah.
And the province then takes the federal money and gives it to us. So
hopefully we can be general in it. So if we're in the middle of a master plan, a rec master plan, and so we,
And is everybody getting? Go ahead. Do you want to speak to that?
I'm just going to say, stay tuned. We have reports that are coming to the next PRAC meeting on that grant.
Okay.
So we're already on it.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep. And just on AMO, and I point out, has everybody been getting the FCM updates? Have you been getting those?
Yes.
Good. Okay, good. So take those FCM updates, and when you read them, this is how FCM is looking at some of these government programs. We're trying to get away from money always flowing to the province and then to us. That doesn't make sense to us. So when you're talking to people that are running for, whether it's the NDP, the Liberals, or the Conservatives, talk about those FCM. They're talking notes for you to talk to. Are you getting them on the press? I assume Pat's getting them too.
Email.
No, you're not.
I am. I get it on email.
You're getting it on email. So everybody should be getting it on email. So if you have any questions on it, ask me about it. But I think it's very important that we try to get this sustainable funding, like the double gas tax we just got. We're now doing things like Queen Street and other places where we wouldn't have got any of that done without getting that money directly to us. And we look after it. We know where the money needs to be spent in our community. And I think it's just adding a whole bunch of extra by going to the province and then federal money going there and coming to us and all the other stuff that's going on. So look into those. I was actually going into AMO. I was a bit concerned, as we all were. I came out of AMO at best neutral.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd moved from negative in my mind to neutral, which I thought was a movement. My concern, and I think talking to some of the other councils who were there, my concern is the talk they're giving us now, they have to walk the walk from the talk. I mean, they're talking about having more talks with us and making sure that we have a say into things, and I'm just hoping they follow through with that. But right now, I'm in a neutral position to see whether that's going to happen or not. But I did get a feeling of like at least they've stopped the process a little bit, stopped it a bit to start listening. We'll see. As I say, the proof will be in the pudding if they do take some of the recommendations that AMO and a bunch of us have been giving them, right, as to how we put some of these things into play. Public health is another issue which we're meeting on still, and we're hoping to get some results on that shortly. But they certainly, from the funding standpoint, public health, they've given us the funding mechanism, so we at least going to balance the budget and try to get going. some of these other things I'm a little concerned about yet. But and then I have to give a shout out to our firemen who had the big race on Sunday with the OPP, and as people go on social media, you'll see that we whopped them again. Even though they went with a lighter truck, they went with their command center, and we went with our pumper. We got rid of the water, thank goodness. Our fire chief realized that we were really getting overcompensated. But it was a great event. The OPP put on their event with the golden helmets, and there was a lot of people turned out, and it was nice to see them coming out of the London area. They've never come up this far north, and it was nice, great afternoon for us, and everybody get to the fair, and the next week can go from there. Okay, anything else? Good. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Gunston, that the Committee of the Whole convenes a regular council meeting. All in favor? Notice of motion. Any notice of motion? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Anderson, that the Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Elliott and second by Deputy Mayor Turton, that the bylaw number 2019-74 and the purpose of appointing municipal council members, citizens of the Town of Minto, be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor McKenzie, that the bylaw number 2019-75 to authorize execution of an agreement regarding the 2019 and 2020 winter maintenance of Highway 9 with Integrated Maintenance and Operations Services, Inc. Introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Elliott, the bylaw number 2019-76 to authorize execution of agreement regarding the 2019-2020 winter maintenance of Highway 9, 23, and 89 with Integrated Maintenance and Operations Services, Inc. Introduced, read first, second, and third time, passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Gunston, second by Councillor Dirksen, bylaw number 2019-77 to execute an Ontario transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty's the Queen and Right of Ontario National Disaster Mitigation Program for projects related to the impact of natural disasters. Be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Anderson, the bylaw number 2019-78 to execute an agreement with the County of Wellington to operate the Early On Child and Family Center at 215 William Street, Palmerston. Be introduced, read first, second, and third time, passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Gunston, the bylaw number 2019-79 for the purpose of amending a parking bylaw 500005 be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Dirksen, bylaw number 2019-80 to confirm the actions of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held September 3rd, 2019 be introduced, read first, second, and third time, passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? I'm having trouble getting through this now. I must be.
You're getting way.
I'm going into Councillor Elliott's situation. It's going too long. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Thank you, everybody, for a good meeting.